Then the second half, I'll get very specific to what we need to be doing right now. If you ever see me speak, or if you know me, you know that I'm very big on practical tips. I don't like wasting time. I like to make sure I'm honoring your time. So I'm going to try to give you lots of tips and suggestions for today. If you miss any of this, we're going to post it on YouTube or something afterwards, unless I screw up royally, and then I will nix that whole idea. So, all right. So the first thing I want to mention to you, if I can get the computer, there we go. The core concept of motivating the middle is engagement. If you look at that photo that I have on the screen right now, I love this photo because it's like my favorite photo of when I'm talking about engagement. Look at this little football team. You can see all different levels of engagement going on right here in this picture. You got number 35 right there who's yelling and all in and super fired up. You got number 20 in the middle there who's not even looking at what's going on in the field. He's probably checking out what's for snack later. You've got the mom, presumably one of the moms standing in the back, you know, kind of hanging back, but she's very focused on what's going on. You got little number 10 over there on the right who's very into his water bottle. In any given situation, at work, in your community of worship, your church, your temple, your group of friends from high school, even in your intimate relationships, right? People are always choosing the level of engagement that they're bringing to the situation. And sometimes it's conscious and sometimes it's unconscious. You know, the number 20 there might have been distracted by a dog that was playing over there. Who knows? People come in and out of attention and engagement in situations. You might have been super engaged with a group of friends in high school, going back to that example, but now not so much. Now you're out of touch, you feel bad about it, but it's just they're not right there in your life. They're not incredibly relevant. Engagement is a funny thing. As much as we try to get people to engage in things, everything about marketing and everything that companies do for marketing is trying to get you to engage with their product. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. If anybody had the perfect answer to that, they would be very, very wealthy. So virtually in any situation, engagement comes and goes. So the concept of the book is that based on the fact that everybody is choosing their own level of engagement, you need to be leading based on that. I want to give you one more example. Let's talk about baseball, because baseball seems really relevant right now. It seems like pretty soon in the next week or two, we're going to hear about what's going on with the Major League Baseball season. Baseball, some people are so into it, right? You probably have a friend, maybe you, who played baseball, who really knows the players, has a favorite team, probably one that wins occasionally, unlike my Colorado Rockies. You might be really upset right now, or you might know someone who's really upset right now because the season canceled. They're very tuned into the players, the stats, love watching a baseball game, know all the calls, they can argue with the umpires, the whole deal. Some people are super into baseball. Then you have people who don't care about baseball at all. They would rather watch paint dry than go to a baseball game. Not interested, find it boring, don't understand why there's so many games. It's a lot of standing around. Baseball doesn't register with them at all. If the World Series is going on, you say, hey, who are you pulling for in the series? Zero idea, don't care, couldn't name 2 baseball teams if you paid me. And then there's people like me, kind of in the middle. I enjoy going to a game. I don't really care who wins that much. But if the Rockies all of a sudden got in the playoffs, I would get super into it. I would tune into it, and I would probably try to get some tickets and go to a game. I would try to share in the shared experience of what was going on in baseball in Denver. If that was going on, it's more about the experience than anything else. So I would suggest that in your student organization, you have the same thing going on. You have some people who are super into it. They know every little thing that's going on. They're really wrapped up in it. It's how they want to spend their time. You have people who are kind of casual, like I am with baseball, who are there, who enjoy the experiences. And then you have some people who, for whatever reason, have just tuned out, are not that engaged at all, okay? I call these the thirds. In my program, I talk about the top third, the middle third, and the bottom third. And I want to explain to you a little bit in a very abbreviated way what I talk about when I talk about the top, the middle, and the bottom third, okay? So the top third is who we all call the leaders. If you go to any student affairs person, you say, tell me your student leaders who are really rocking it and making a difference this year. They're probably going to mention their officers of organizations, maybe somebody who has started an organization, someone who's involved in the multicultural organizations, that sort of thing. If you ask your coaches, they'll tell you about the people who are really leading the team, showing up, setting the example. that kind of thing. When we throw around the word leader a lot, let's be honest, in college life, but usually we're talking about the top third. These are the people who are super busy. They're always doing things. They make sure that people see them doing things. My friend Mindy talks about the top third is wearing it all the time, sometimes literally, right? They have the t-shirt on. They are the people who, you know, when they wake up in the morning, they don't decide if they're gonna, you know, wear their club or Greek organization shirt. They're like, which one am I gonna wear? Because I have a million of them. They're very engaged. They always representing the group. This is what they talk about all the time. It is the big thing going on in their life, right? They're highly engaged. They have a sort of visceral need to be involved in everything going on. They have an opinion about everything. They want to run for office. These are the folks who, when you have a meeting, you know that they're going to be talking a fair amount of the time because they're super engaged in what's going on. Top third thrives on validation and success. Honestly, if your group is doing well, if you're in an intramural team and your team is winning, people are showing up and enjoying it. If you're throwing a party, you're a top third person, you're throwing a party and people show up and say, this is the best party ever. If you're the president of a sorority and at the year you win the award, the cup for the best sorority on campus, those kind of things feel good. You're busting your ass all year and it's nice to feel a little validation going on. Now, it's important also to note that top third leaders does not just mean officers of an organization. You can have top third members of your organization who are super engaged, but they're not involved in a formal capacity. So that could be that freshman who had just joined this year of your organization and they were super into it, and then boom, you know, COVID happens and they're not able to continue investing the way they were. The new member who's ready to be an officer tomorrow. It can also be that really tiresome member of your organization who always has an opinion and is always meddling in everything. You kind of wish they'd knock it off and like just chill, but they don't because they're super engaged, right? So don't think of it so much as people who are the smartest, most effective leaders. It's the people who are the most engaged, right? This is back to the baseball analogy. It's the person in the stands who understands the game backward and forward, but it's also that person who just goes and puts on the uniform and paints their face and cheers a lot, right? Engagement, 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 okay? Then you have your middle third. Your middle third, most of the time, the way I get people to understand this is your middle third are sort of your average members, right? If I said to you, think about somebody in your organization who everybody generally likes, a good person shows up most of the time, but you can't really imagine that person stepping up into a leadership role. Like you kind of have to bring them out a little bit. They don't throw their hand up. You have to kind of coax them out a little bit. Maybe they have a lot of things going on in their life other than your organization. So I put there on the slide, they're your jugglers, right? This is the person, this is the brother in your fraternity who shows up, who is a good brother, cares about the organization, but he also has the girlfriend and he's getting his butt kicked in business school and he works a job and he likes to play basketball on Tuesday nights with friends from the residence hall, whatever. And he's always juggling, right? Middle third are your jugglers. They are into your organization. They want it to succeed, but they're pretty happy to hang back a little bit and let you, the top third, run everything and take all the stress, right? The organization fills a need in their life. Now, that can be a lot of different things. Sometimes they need a place to live. Sometimes they really like, if you are a club sport, for example, they might really just love playing the game. It fills a need. Social. For a lot of us in fraternities and sororities, we know that we have members who really join because they really want that social part of their life to pop and to have activity. And it's a lot easier to buy into an organization where social life is part of what's going on and not to have to go out and create it organically yourself all the time. So the organization feels a need, but they're not compelled to always be in charge, right? Your middle third is really interested in two things: keeping that balance going, keeping the fraternity or keeping the multicultural, the Black Student Union or whatever, staying involved with that, but being able to do the other things in their life. So balance is important, but honestly, their engagement is based on their relationships. They show up for the people. I always say to leaders of organizations when I'm doing programs on their campus or I'm doing a training, I say, you know, you show up to your meeting and you have an agenda, right? There's things we need to do. We have a lot to do tonight. Everybody sit down and be quiet. Like we really have a lot to do. And then your middle third shows up, and they honestly are not there for the agenda. They're not there to get business done necessarily. They're really there for the people. So if you've ever had a meeting where you're an officer and you're leading the meeting and you have the people chattering, chattering and talking, and you kind of wish they would just shut up and pay attention. If you've ever had to say, hey, if everybody would just sit down and shut up, we have a lot to go through tonight, we can get through this. Your middle third is kind of like, because they showed up for the people. They didn't show up for the agenda. For my fraternity and sorority friends, I always say they love Greek Week because it's a fun time to hang out and do things, but they don't really care about the trophy. That's not why they're there. Middle third members are those members that are happy to be in a supporting role. They typically are really great if you ask them to do a task, but if you ask them to do something big that they can't quite get their mind around, that can be problematic. For example, a middle third member does not want to be fundraising chair for your organization, but if you say to a middle third person, hey, can you sell 12 raffle tickets? They can do that because they can wrap their head around what that means, okay? So you have your top third running the show, very intense, boom, boom, boom. You have your middle third that's supportive, but they need to make it work with the rest of their lives. And then you have those people. I always say, if someone gave you a magic Harry Potter wand, and they let you go tap the head of one person in your organization, and nothing bad would happen to them, but they would get a scholarship to a school far, far away, you know exactly whose head you would tap, right? These are the people who are just kind of checked out. They might have been really into it at one point, your organization, but now for whatever reason, and there's a million reasons, some you might find legitimate, some you might not, they're just not that into you. They're really into something else. It could be any number of things. It could be, oh, I got my first real serious girlfriend, boyfriend. It could be, I got a job. My family, my dad and my mom, somebody lost a job. Someone's sick. There's a lot of different reasons why people pull back. A lot of people just turn 21. They turn 21 and suddenly focus is on going to bars and different things with a different group of people, and they're just not really into your organization anymore. So they tend to get kind of detached. Again, bottom third people are not bad people. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're a complete pain in the ass, but sometimes they're just not around, right? I find that your bottom third people come in two types. There's the oppositional ones, the ones who want to create drama, who are detached, but they still want to meddle and cause problems. And then you sometimes have people who are just absent. Some of you have a member of your organization who you really like. You genuinely wish they would come around more, be around more, step up more, because they're an interesting person. You really like them personally, but they're just not there. They're detached. They're not into you. Other priorities speak more to them. They've decided to go to law school, and so now they really want to focus on their grades. Maybe they don't like the officers that got elected into your organization, but there's still something about your organization that they want to connect with. There's something there. Maybe it's just like they've been part of it for a long time. Maybe they just like a few of the people that are still in the organization, but there's some reason why they hang around. I get a lot of questions from people like, why do the bottom third hang around? Why are they still there? And the fact is that most of them still have something they like. In fraternities, we might have that senior who never shows up, never helps out with anything, but damn it, when they party, he shows up and he's brother of the year, that kind of thing happens. Bottom third people are not bad people. They're just people. Their priorities have changed, and we all know that your priorities change a lot between sophomore year and senior year. Things change, and some people pull away. So at any given time, you've got all three of these thirds, your top level, your middle level, and your bottom level, all coexisting inside your organization. I don't care if you're an honor society or a multicultural group or an activism group, an environmental club, or the breakdancing club. Whatever organization you're part of, you really have people that are at these different levels, and sometimes they're moving around, okay? The key point of the book, and here's the whole book in one short thing. I can summarize the book with this slide, right? And that is, to be a smart leader, you need to lead, impact, influence, and motivate your members from where they are in terms of engagement, not where you wish they would be. I have been to conferences for the last 30 years, and every time you go to a session on motivating your members, it's always about things you can do to get people more excited and more engaged and to be more like the top third. The reason why motivating the middle has been successful, I think, is because my point of view is you need to lead them regardless of what they're bringing to the table. You have that member who is disengaged and doesn't care and only comes around once every 3 weeks. You still have to lead that person. That person is still a member. If it was possible, I swear, if it was possible to just motivate people to go to some session at a conference or read some motivational book, there's a million of them at the bookstore, trust me. If there was a way, a secret weapon to just get everybody to be top third, then we wouldn't need leadership conferences. We wouldn't need leadership books. Everybody would know how to do it. The fact is that people are moving around, coming in and out, and you have to be able to engage your members based on what they're bringing to the table. All right, I want to emphasize this one more time. I know I mentioned it already, but I want to mention it again. People will move around, and the reason why they move around in terms of engagement, the reason why your president last year, who was living, breathing, eating this stuff, now never comes around, the reason why that person who was shy and didn't do much suddenly stepped up and became treasurer. People move around based on what's going on in their lives, right? Maybe I was in a serious relationship up until a month ago, and now that's over, and I'm like realizing I've missed out on a lot of things. I really want to step in and help, and I want to do more. Maybe somebody said to me, you know, next year you'd be a really great captain of the rugby club, and it just, like, I've been thinking about it all summer, and now I think maybe I could do that. You know, people move around as circumstances change. And part of what I want to really talk about in this webinar is we have a lot of circumstances that are changing right now. So it's really possible that a lot of people in your organization left at one level of engagement at the beginning, you know, in February, and now they're somewhere totally different because they have things going on. People, when they're in school, might move around because of a relationship or because of financial troubles or an illness or anything like that. But now they're moving around because they've got sick people in their family, or they've been locked in with their family for a long time. Your LGBTQ organizations, you might have had someone who was super, super engaged with everything, but now they've been locked down with their non-supportive family for the last 6 weeks. And boy, they're just in a different place right now, okay? So people are moving around. Their engagement with you is changing. All right, so what's going on with your members right now? What's going on with them right now? In addition to all the mess that's going on in the world with the virus and economic lockdown and the stock market plummeting and people unsure if they can afford school next year, all these different things going on, you know, you're still trying to keep them engaged with your organization. So this is not really easy. And if you're a top third leader, maybe an officer of your organization, you probably tuned in because you're trying to figure out what the hell you're supposed to do, right? Before we get into like what things you should be doing, let's just talk about a little bit about where each of your thirds are right now, okay? So big circumstances have happened. People's engagement moving all over the place. Someone who back in February was not very engaged with their family is now super engaged with their family. Maybe somebody who was at school in a serious relationship. Now they're not quarantined with that person. They haven't seen that person in person in a long time. And that's, you know, really affected their mindset. A lot of things are going on. So with your top third, here's what's going on with your top third, your highly engaged members, okay? There is definitely some loss of identity. They were super, you know, when they walked around campus, they were, you know, Joe from the newspaper. Well, now they're not Joe from the newspaper because they're home and they're Joe who walks the dog for mom every day at 4 o'clock. So there's a real identity issue going on for a lot of people. They feel a little lost. They're not really sure. They've had a lot of time to think. They're not really sure that they've been spending their time in the right way. They're not really sure that they feel as emotionally connected. You know, they're not really sure where they are. They're feeling ripped off. Honestly, I bet there's some of you right now on this call who got elected. You just started your position in January and then all this crap hit, right? And you have not had a chance to do any of the things that you expected to do. If you were captain of the basketball team, you know, you lost your whole season. You're feeling ripped off. A lot of seniors right now are feeling very ripped off because all the things they get to do at the end of the year, the ordering the cap and gowns, all the different things, they've lost a lot of that, right? A lot of the people who, like the person, if you're in a fraternity, for example, the person who was planning formal, you know, they were really excited. They had really big ideas about what they were going to do for formal, but now that's not happening. No demonstrated success. Top third members really need to show their work, right? They like to feel, they like the awards. They like people to say, wow, good job. we need to be able to demonstrate to people that what we do, the way we spend our time makes a difference. And right now, there's not a whole lot of ways to show that. I mean, even you can do all the Zoom calls you want, but it's really hard to feel like you're really leading, or you're really integral to the organization when the organization is not even really happening right now, to the extent that you're used to it. Top third members are eager to get back to what was, but they're worried about what's to come. Boy, they wish they could roll back the clock and just make everything. I wonder how many of your top third leaders have said, I need this virus to stop. This is bullshit. I'm sick of this. They want to go back to what they were strong in, where they mattered, where they were relevant, where they were influential. And they're also worried about what's to come. You know, we're seeing articles in the newspaper all the time about, is school going to even happen? Are we going to be able to get people together? If you're a leader of a large organization, are you even going to be able to get people together? If you're part of the programming board, you know, concerts, movies, comedy night, are any of those things going to happen? We don't know. So like, we want what we had, but we're not sure what the hell's coming, right? A lot of top third student leaders in your organization really feel like they need to do something. I wonder how many of you have a member, a brother, a sister, a teammate who just is coming up with ideas of things to do, like, oh, we need to do this, or we need to have a contest, or we need to have a phone tree, or whatever. They feel this really strong need to be doing something, right? Because right now, doing nothing is just eating at their soul. I will say, in a positive way, a lot of top third leaders are doing some pretty cool, innovative stuff right now too. So not all of it's negative. Some student leaders are really rising up to the occasion and doing some really cool things, whatever that is. And I'm sure some of you have some good ideas of things that you've seen people do. So that's your top third. They're just like a car spinning its wheels in the garage, going nowhere, burning energy, and just not really sure what they're supposed to be doing. Okay. Where are your middle third, your average members, right? Mostly they're just missing their friends. They're missing the experiences that they enjoyed with their friends. Like the top third, they're missing the formal, they're missing the big game, the championship. They're missing, you know, whatever, the debates that they would be in right now. Whatever it is, they're missing just college, man. They're just missing being there and with people. And even though they sometimes struggle to make it all balanced, for some of these people now, they have nothing but time, and they're like, well, damn, you know, like, I had this balance going. I was working out and I was still able to help on this committee, and now it's all messed up. So they're missing kind of their routine. They're missing their friends. They're trying to stay positive. Generally speaking, middle third members really value a positive vibe in an organization. They want everybody to get along. So right now they're just kind of like, okay, you know, hopefully we'll get back to this. They're more just hanging back, but they're trying to keep it positive. Maybe they're posting on your Facebook group, funny things, that kind of thing. They do feel good when they connect with members of your organization. This really fuels them up. Whereas top third want to get something done, want to do something, want to make some progress. Your middle third can feel pretty good just by connecting with other members of the organization. So I also find that middle third members tend to be very focused on whatever's in front of them. So you might have a middle third member of your organization who is very focused on what's going on in their family life right now, or what's going on in their community. I saw one young woman online that I follow that I met on a visit who is just sewing masks. She's sewing masks like crazy, and she's doing all these masks and giving them to charities and to organizations that need them. And it's like fantastic, you know. That's very top third, right? Middle third might just be kind of dealing with their family, you know, trying to stay connected to the girlfriend, that kind of thing. Middle third are okay with chilling for now. They probably are not the ones that are demanding a lot right now. They're kind of hanging back. They're listening when you say something, but they're hanging back. They miss it, but they're not necessarily trying to do a whole lot about it because they're assuming things will resume. I find that a lot of middle third people in organizations are the ones who talk about, well, you know, the fall will be okay. We'll be back where we need to be. We'll be doing the things that we like to do. They kind of need they need that hope that things are going to get back to their normal routine, because that's where they thrived, was in their routine. Your bottom third, you know, frustratingly, they tend to be kind of deactivated right now, most of them. If they were sort of pulling away from your organization when school was in, now it's really easy to pull back. They are kind of unresponsive. They are when they do respond, it might be something not constructive. I had one fraternity president reach out to me and say, okay, this one person who hasn't done a damn thing in a year now is posting every day on Facebook and causing drama and putting inappropriate things on our Facebook page. Yeah, so bottom third members, they're not really super bought into the health of the group. They're really kind of focused on whatever they're focused on. And most of the time, they're just kind of off in the ether and not really that engaged. But sometimes you have a problematic bottom third member who just wants to cause problems. So for these bottom third members, they're missing that one thing, you know, that senior who pulled way back and she wasn't coming to your sorority meetings and didn't want to do things and had a bad attitude last fall in recruitment. Yeah, she's still missing the formal this year, right? She's still missing seeing her friends and graduating with her friends, but she's pulling away, pulling away. You might have somebody who's an officer in your organization who has suddenly become very bottom third and now is not responding to anything because they're not even sure they're going to be able to go back to school, right? Financial things are a real thing right now. So this is where your people are right now. So what should you be doing? This is the part where I switch into like, now what should you be doing? This is not a very sexy slide, but I'm just going to give you just a list of what I think you need to do. Here's a little thing that a lot of you might not know about me. Speaking has become less of a full-time thing for me. A couple years ago, accepted a job running a chamber of commerce. So my day job is running a chamber of commerce here in the Denver area. And then I go and travel and do speaking gigs at colleges and leadership conferences as sort of my other thing, my side hustle, my big side hustle. So I'm seeing all of these things at play in all kinds of organizations, not just college student organizations, but the Chamber of Commerce that I run right now. So we've been dealing with the same things a lot of you've been dealing with. How do we keep the organization relevant? What are we supposed to be doing as leaders? How can we help our members? All the same things a lot of you are going through, I'm going through with my board of directors, with my Chamber of Commerce and my staff. So let me share with you some good generic things that you should be doing. First of all, the first thing I think you should do is you should be calling every single one of your members. And I'm not talking about a text. I'm talking about embracing the awkward, calling your members. Actual voice conversations. I know it makes me seem like a really old dude that I'm saying that you need to like make phone calls, but I tell you, it's the single biggest thing we've done in the chamber that the members say they appreciated. They really appreciated that someone didn't just send them an email, that someone actually reached out and called and asked how they are. If you have an organization, if you're running a student government and you've got, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people, okay, I'm not saying you call every student on your campus, but you should call your officers and your leaders and maybe your student senators, the people who hold roles in your organization. If you have too many, divide it up among your officers, but make some phone calls, reach out to people. Now, the important thing for you to do is when you make these calls, you really have to empathize with what they're going through. These calls are not about you. You are not calling to relay information about your organization. You are not calling to ask them for anything. You are simply calling to see how they're doing, what's going on in your life. Do the human thing, right? Just reach out to people. Make it about them. Don't try to fix things. If someone says, oh, you know, I don't know if I can go to school, I don't know what the money is, don't go out and research scholarships for them. You don't need to do that. Mostly you just need to listen. By the way, that's good advice for relationships too. Don't always try to fix everything. Just listen to people. When they say that they're not sure if they're going back to school, or, oh my God, like how am I supposed to take sophomore chemistry when I've had this shit show of an online course this semester, whatever they're going through. I haven't seen my girlfriend in 7 weeks, and I don't know when I'm going to see her again, and she's not responding to my text messages. Whatever's going on, you know, talk about it. Just listen to them. Everything doesn't have to be business all the time, right? Sometimes you just need to reach out to people and empathize with them. I really want the third point on this slide. I really want you to pay attention to, and that's remember real life, right? You know, rugby team is important. You know, Latino student union, Latino student organization is important. Everything you do is important on campuses. But for a lot of people, real life right now is scary as hell. For everybody, right? From when do I wear a mask to can I see my friends to am I safe at home? Everything is upended. So don't be afraid to just talk about real life and understand that some of your members who have pulled back, someone who was super engaged and now you haven't heard from them anymore, might have lost somebody. As of this moment, what, 55,000 Americans dead due to coronavirus. So this is some real stuff here. And, just be empathetic. Understand that we're not talking like we did in February. We're talking now in April, almost May, with a whole different perspective on things. So remember that. All right, the fourth item on this page, I put in green because I think it's really, really important. I really want you to think about doing this. After you've been calling people, you give yourself a week, you call a bunch of people, some of your other officers call some other members of your group. Get back together with your key leaders and talk about what you heard. This is so important. There's a couple reasons why this is important. First of all, you'll see some themes develop. What people want, what people care about, what people are going through, right? So share, I was talking to John, and John's grandmother is really sick and in the hospital, and they don't know if she's gonna make it. And Judy is worried because she says she's put on 10 pounds and she's afraid she's gonna be out of shape if the season starts back in the fall. Who the hell knows, right? Whatever people are dealing with, share that stuff. Talk about themes. What are people worried about? What are people asking about? What do people care about? What are some common problems that people have? Oh my God, everybody's having a hard time with these horrible calls and they really need some assistance with math. I don't know, right? Just find your themes. But the other reason why this is important that you get together and you talk about your calls is it will validate your top third that they're still needed, that there's still something important. There's things we could be doing to help our members to really take care of the humans that make up our organization. When you're talking to people, you want to reassure them that the basics will be there. There's a lot of anxiety. If I go back to school, will it be different? What will we be able to do? What won't we be able to do? Just tell people that the basics will be there. Maybe we can't play matches, but we can still work out together, for the club sport that we're in. We're still gonna make plans to do, this cultural observance that we have in October. We don't know what'll happen. Maybe there'll be a second wave that they're talking about, who knows, but we're gonna plan on it. And until we find out we can't do it, we're gonna do it. Like, let people know that the things they love about your organization are still gonna be there. I think that's really key. Sometimes as a top third member, you're really worried. You're not really sure what's going to happen in the fall. You have to sort of rise above that and let people know that some things are not going to change. You're really going to fight hard to try to make sure some of the key things that people care about are still there for people. So now this next line, you're like, what the hell is this? I have a friend, our close friends of our family. They have a daughter who I love very much. She's like my niece, and she is a senior. And she's had a really tough time in the last week because she missed out on prom. First serious boyfriend, and they were going to go to prom together, and she had the dress, and it was a huge deal. And I talked to her this week, and she was talking about, well, we obviously can't have prom, so we're having a virtual prom. And they did this whole Zoom thing, and everyone showed up in their outfits, and they played music. I mean, there's been some of these things on Instagram Live with these virtual proms. And it's very nice. It's nice that they're doing that. It's nice that someone took the effort and trying to make people feel better. But here's the thing. Avery said to me, no matter how hard they try, virtual prom is not the same as prom. And that's true, right? We have to be really very sensitive to that we can do all the Zoom calls and different things and try to get people engaged. But in a sense, it's really a sad substitute for a lot of people for what the real thing would have been. So we just have to have a certain authenticity about that. We can offer things to try to keep people connected, but don't be upset when people are still kind of like, yeah, that was okay. That was nice. Yeah, it was good to see everybody, but they're not enthusiastic. I think the enthusiasm is a little hard for people to muster right around some things. And don't fall into that top third trap of feeling like you're not being validated because people are not as excited about some of the virtual stuff as you are. You're doing the work, you're trying to do something good, you're trying to help people, and then people are kind of like, but it wasn't prom. Okay, so just remember, that's okay. Everybody has their feelings and everybody's dealing with their grief and loss. And so we have to remember that that's natural and that's not a bad thing. It's not a reflection on us as the top third leaders who are trying to keep things going, okay? Be a source of joy in a tough time. You know, at the core of this, you're in this organization because you're friends, because you care about something in common. So really just focus on that, you know, try to be a source of positive energy as much as you can. There's a lot of negativity out there right now. Just flip on the news any time of the day. Try to be a source of joy a little bit. Try to be the good thing in their life that they miss and wait to get back to. You don't have to you don't have to rewrite your constitution and bylaws right now. That's not the most important thing. If you want to do that, great, right? But more importantly is reaching out to that member and having a laugh with them. I think that is so much more valuable for your organization. And finally, the last tip I want for you to think about with everybody is admit it. You don't know what the hell is going to happen. And that's really hard for a lot of us that are top third leaders. We are used to controlling the situation. We are used to maximizing the potential of a certain outcome. Right now, you're not in control very much, and that's okay. We really know what's going on. For those of you, if any of you watching are in sororities, we don't know if recruitment's going to happen in the fall, how it's going to happen, how the hell we make it socially distanced. Who knows? We don't know. We don't really know. We're willing to step in and try to figure it out. We're going to roll with whatever comes and do the best we can. And we're going to need everybody to chip in and try to help make this work because everything is different. Everything is really weird right now. Okay? All right. Let's talk a little bit about leading your actual thirds. Okay? In terms of your top third members, your officers, that really fired up new member of your organization, the person who you don't want to lose, check in frequently. I'm talking like my new obsession is this Marco Polo app. I know I'm like in my 50s and I'm like discovering a social media thing, how dorky, but like I'm checking in with my friends all the time on that app and I love it. That's my new addiction. Checking in with people is really good for the spirit, you know, so make sure you're making that call, you're doing that text, you're doing the Snapchat, whatever the hell you do to stay connected to your members and your friends, do it because your top third needs it. Your top third, the worst thing for them is feeling alone. Feeling like they're not connected to your organization. So you need to make sure you create that connection as much as you can. That doesn't necessarily mean having a lot of meetings. You don't have to have a Zoom meeting with an agenda to feel connected. Sometimes you can just talk to one another, virtual happy hour, whatever the hell you want to do. I think that's really important. Offer hope for what lies ahead. Listen to their ideas. A lot of people a lot of top thirds right now their wheels are spinning. They got lots of ideas of things they want to do. Listen to those, validate those. No bad ideas. Right now we're all locked down. Most of us are. So, you know, encourage ideas. Let's keep thinking, like, how can we make our organization better? What's one thing we really want to do in the fall when we get back to really emphasize the most important thing? Encourage affinity. Encourage affinity just means like give them opportunities to show that they're part of your organization. You know, I had one group that the other day, I saw that they did like a hashtag and they all wore their shirts. It was an orientation leaders group and they all wore their orientation shirts from last fall and they took pictures like in quarantine with their masks on, but they were all wearing their shirt, you know. That kind of thing is good. If you're in a fraternity or sorority, you know, like have a spirit day online. Just do, you know, encourage people to, you know, show that they still care about the organization, encourage that affinity, support reasonable action, but always have a plan B. You know, that person who is organizing your awards event's a good one because a lot of people are missing awards events this semester. So they want to do an awards event first thing when we get back in the fall for this past year. Okay, cool. Go for it. Let's think about some things. Let's plan some things. Let's try some things, throw some ideas, but let's also have a plan B if we are not allowed to get together. I think it's really possible that a lot of colleges are going to have classes, but they're going to ban any kind of large group sessions and any kind of large group activities. And that's really going to throw a lot of us off. So plan for that contingency, but keep the spirits up as much as you can for that top third. For the middle third, for your average members, you know, it's really important that you're communicating with them on a regular basis. Send some positive stuff, send some emails with some funny things, express care for them, make sure that if you have that middle third member who cares about working out and is always like, you know, working out and running and doing, ask them if they're working out, ask them what they're doing. What are you following on Instagram? How are you staying fit? What are you doing now that your routine is messed up? Express care, be their friend first and be the officer second. I really feel like that's really important advice is like, be a person first. And then, you know, if they ask questions about the organization or they're worried about something, great, let's talk about that. But mostly, you know, I'm touching base with you because I care about you. Middle third members, remember, they're all about the relationships. And even if you're not super close with them before this all started, there's no reason why you can't get closer to them now. So they like to know what's going on. They do. They don't want to be told they need to do a whole bunch of things right now because they're feeling very uncertain, but they do want to know what's going on. So if you're getting messages from the dean of students or the student activities office or whatever, or you're hearing something from the university, make sure you share that. They want to know what's going on, ask their questions, just be open, just be very, very open. And I think for middle third members, one of the best things you can do is ask them to check in on others. Who have you talked to? Hey, we've got these new members who just joined in the fall. I haven't heard a damn thing from them. Can you reach out to them and report back to me what you hear from them? That kind of thing. Middle third members care about those connections. And so use that and you'll make them feel better. It'll help the member they're reaching out to. And I also suggest you give them a number. Hey, I'm going to give you 3 people. Can you reach out to these 3 people? I don't care how you do it, but can you reach out to these 3 people this week? That's a really great thing to do with your middle third. Okay. And finally, for those people, the bottom third, look, they were pulling back, they were disengaged before all this started, and so they're probably going to continue that. Most of them. Don't harass them. Include them. I think you call them, you do the check-in with them. You see how they're doing, you empathize with what's going on. They might complain, they might take this opportunity to bitch and bitch and bitch and be negative. And okay, you know what? I have this thing above my desk at the chamber that says, behind every complaint is a commitment. And I have to remember that when someone calls and complains about something, I have to remember that that's usually because they're really, they do care somewhere down deep in their soul. They care about the organization, and I need to start with that, right? But it's okay if they're unresponsive. It's okay. Your bottom third, there's nothing there that they're having to come to. They're not interacting with people. They are probably focused on those other things that are more important in their life. So if they're not being responsive, don't take it personally. It's okay. And they might drift back to you. They might not. But your energy is better spent engaging those top and middle thirds. All right. So Casey, this is the part where you come back on and you let me know what questions came up during the program. Casey, are you there?
There we go. It would help if
there we go.
Myself. There we go.
There we go.
There's been a couple of questions.
Doesn't it feel like every Zoom call is nothing but people going, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" So.
Sorry, everyone. And I'm the host. I should be better at this. TJ, there have been a couple of questions. I invite everyone else, if you have one, to go ahead and share it in the chat right now. One came in from Colin, and Colin is an advisor. And this is really an interesting question. I think you kind of hit on it in some various areas of your program, but something. When much of a leader's identity is tied to knowing and having the answers, how do we give our leaders permission to not know what the plan is?
Yeah. Oh my God. And that's such the top third dilemma, right? That's the top third dilemma, is that everybody wants to feel like they've got the control of the situation. They're moving the needle. They're doing things. I think, we're all going to look back a year from now and go, wow, the people who really were good leaders during this time took a stripped down approach to this and really went for the important things. Have you noticed on like a lot of people with their on TV with their shows, the Jimmy Fallons, the Jimmy Kimmels, doesn't it seem like everybody's doing it? Some people are doing it better than others are. They're just sort of accepting the situation. They're kind of being themselves. They're being authentic. And they're doing their thing, man. They're doing it. So I would just say to student leaders, like, what can you do? What can you control right now? You can control, you reach out to your members. You can control whether you have plans for the fall. You can control how to reach out to those people that you're afraid you might not retain, whatever that is. And maybe help them walk through what they can do. We get so bogged down, top third leaders, we get so bogged down on what we can't do. Oh my God, I can't do this. I can't do that. Sometimes it's just letting them vent. Colin, I would say the biggest thing you could do as an advisor is just let those top third leaders mourn what they've lost, deal with their grief, but then at some point move them on to, okay, what can we do? What can we plan on? What are some things we can do? And really encourage those personal reactions. So what else, Casey?
All right, here's another good one. And this might be last one in terms of time. I know that we're going to be conscious of that. So right now, what would you say to a top third member who's struggling to maintain their enthusiasm? That maybe in February, they had a ton of enthusiasm. They were elected to a position, but now they're really struggling to maintain it because this position that they were elected to or signed up for now looks quite a bit different.
Yeah, the thing you got elected to is not what you have right now, but no one else before you has ever had this challenge. This is if you reframe it, you know, our speaker, Summer Owens, who I just love, talks about this whole thing about you just have to reframe the situation. Yeah, it sucks that you're not motivated because all the things that typically motivated you aren't there. You don't have people, you know, coming up to you and clapping you on the back and telling you how fabulous everything is. But what you do have is you have an opportunity to really innovate and try some new things. And also, you know what I find, again, going back to the chamber thing, before all this started, we were doing a ton of things. We had so many events and so many things we were doing. Now we're doing very little, but what we're doing very intentionally, and we're doing very thoughtfully. And we're trying to make sure we reach out to people and invite them in to share their ideas on certain things. There's things we can do now that people were too busy to do before, and now we have time to do them. So I would say for your student organization, same thing, you know, try to focus on what are some things we can be working on? What are some chronic problems we had that we could never solve? If we can't go back and recruit in the fall, what are we gonna do? What are some other ways we can reach out to people? What can we be doing right now to recruit good people? There's so many, it's almost like they just wiped everything away, and like almost everything is possible now. So you just have to reframe it and think reframe it and think what's possible and take care of yourself, right? Stop stressing out so much about everything you're not able to do. Casey, give me one more question.
Oh, right. So Melinda just Melinda just asked this. In case there's time, how can we prevent the bottom third from bringing the middle and top third down? So essentially, what can we do to protect the top and the middle in this time of unpredictable, like what's going to happen next, those bottom third members from successfully recruiting other members toward them?
You're never able to control that. So my response to you is to stop worrying about something you can't control. If a middle third member decides that they're not going to come back to school and they're going to go and, I don't know, go to trade school, whatever, join the priesthood, I don't know. That's their decision. Everybody is making their own decisions. So the more you think you can control where someone's engagement goes, the more you're going to frustrate yourself. These are decisions that they're going to make for themselves. I think you can enforce some standards. You still need to enforce your standards. Talking to my fraternity and sorority friends, you know, you definitely have to make sure that Facebook group doesn't get out of hand, that we're not behaving in a way on social media that's inconsistent with our values. So there's things like that. You still have the ability to enforce those things that are representative of your organization. But you know, you can't really choose what people are going to go through in their lives and how they're going to respond to that. You need to respect people, and you need to, you know, let them make their own decisions. I always have this thing I say that, my God, if we started treating our members like adults, perhaps they would start behaving like adults. And I tell you what, this time, yes, I'm sorry.
I have to get this one in because it's too good.
Okay. Okay.
How do we respond when officers have become bottom third members?
Yeah, well, that's very common, right? Because a lot of people became officers because they, you know, the attention and the doing of things and the status and all those kind of things, and now they don't have any of that. So is it surprising to you that an officer that perhaps was in a high, let's say a social chair, or somebody who was in charge of a big event, they were an officer and they were in charge of a big event, and that big event is gone now. So they're like, to hell with this, and they're disengaged. That's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. So I think you check in with your officers. If there's a function you need them to fill right now, you blatantly ask them if they're able to fill it. If they can do the work, you ask if they need help figuring out how to do it. For a lot of people, that's a problem. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how am I supposed to enforce academics in my fraternity if everyone's online and I can't see if anyone's studying. You know, like, you have to sometimes brainstorm and figure out how to get people over the hump of figuring out how to do things. So yeah, you know, I think it's very common. I'd be very surprised if there was anybody out there who didn't have an officer who massively disengaged right now through this whole thing. And that, I would just say, stop worrying about trying to fix that. Cope with it. Ask someone else to fill the role, to do the job that needs to be done, and just cope. I mean, we're all just trying to cope right now and get the basics done. So stop stressing about it and just get the thing done, you know, and don't do it yourself. Try to find somebody else. This is a good opportunity to reach out to some of those people who you think could be emerging leaders and have them engage with what you're doing. So Casey, I'm going to wrap up right now, okay? And I'm going to tell everybody one last thing. And that is, I was recently interviewed for an article, and they asked me, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received in your life? That's a pretty common question, right? But I know exactly the best piece of advice I ever got. When my oldest son was a teenager, and I was really getting a lot of attitude from him, and it was just a really hard time. He was just kind of just being a jerk. I turned to one of my mentors, and I was like, what the hell do I do? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, look, you got to give a lot more love than you expect in return. And I was like, that hit me. And I was like, oh my God, you're right. Like, I'm not going to get validated by this kid. This teenager of mine is not going to go, you're such a great dad. You're really awesome. Most of the time it's going to be, get the hell away from me. I hate you. And then the next day they love you again. You know, as an officer right now during this crazy time, I think you need to be giving out a lot more love than you're expecting in return. For a lot of you watching, you're a top third member. You like to be validated. You like to know you're doing a good job. You like people to see you being busy. And it's very validating, and it gives us value in our life. But, you know, you're not going to get a lot of that. You know, I'm doing this, when I'm doing my program, my Motivating the Middle program in front of an audience, I'm getting all kinds of feedback. I know what jokes are landing. I know if people are with me or not. You know, on a Zoom call, I don't know if you guys are, you know, loving it or hating it. I have no idea. It's the same sort of thing. So I'm not getting much in return. I guess that Casey will tell me what the chat room was like afterwards. But even just doing the Zoom calls, a lot like being an officer right now, you just have to put a lot of good stuff out there, be your authentic self, try to help people, be open to whatever comes, and then be okay with that. You know, none of you are going to ace this, just like I'm never going to ace being a parent. None of you are going to ace this leadership challenge necessarily, but you can show up, you can try to connect with your members, and you can try to do the good work that you're able to do. This is how you can reach me. I encourage all of you to visit the website. You can email me at tj@forcollegeforlife.com. I have lots of time right now, so I'm very happy to respond to questions you have or any ideas you'd like to share with me. I would really appreciate it. And Casey, thank you for hosting this.
TJ, the comments have been fantastic. Thank you everyone who participated today. Please be on the lookout. We're doing more free virtual programs in the coming days and weeks, and we want to be there for you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to TJ. If not, we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, everybody.